NASA says that right now is a wonderful opportunity to focus on the planet Venus. This follows the recent discoveries of possible life on the planet. If you happen to examine NASA's records from the 1960s, you'd see the space organization referring to Venus as a planet of judgment. Meanwhile, Mars became their primary focus. Such careful naming of the primary planets wasn't common during the wild space race era. The Soviet Union was focused on sending missions to Venus. The stunning planet showed virtually no potential for life. Yet the Soviet space program didn't decommission the Venera program until the fall of the USSR. Thanks to Neil deGrasse Tyson, we finally understand why. Join us as we examine the declassified photographs from Venus taken by the Soviet Union. The fall of the Soviet Union was significant in more ways than one. Not only did it change the global course of history, but it also unveiled many secrets. The Soviets had a profound habit of maintaining secrecy, from running the most elusive intelligence organization in the world to being mysterious about their true capabilities. This suggests that extraterrestrial contact might have been one of those secrets. The former superpower holds many untold mysteries. Before the U.S. surpassed planetary missions in space, the Soviet Union led the race. While the USSR had a long history of both successful and failed space missions, its most notable focus was on the hostile planet Venus. In the Russian language, Venus is referred to as Venera, which was also the name of the mission that lasted from 1961 to 1983. During the same time, the U.S. was busy sending missions to the moon. In a way, the Soviets chose to allocate their resources elsewhere. We can't say that their obsession with the second planet from the sun was odd. Did the Soviets plan to use the planet's surface as a potential power station? Or were they perhaps hoping to colonize the planet after searching for signs of activity beneath the surface? The question remains, why were the Soviets so focused on this brutal planet? Since these missions were conducted during the Cold War, they weren't entirely transparent about their objectives. In fact, everything we know about the Venusian missions comes from declassified and unarchived data. After so much effort, pinpointing what the Soviets were genuinely searching for and whether they ever uncovered Venus's secrets remains a challenge. The Soviets didn't land on Venus just once or twice, but multiple times. It's true, the Soviets launched 28 expensive rockets toward the planet. 13 of those entered the Venusian atmosphere, while 8 technically landed. Such complex missions put the Soviets in a leading position in space exploration. Sure, the U.S. was a close second, but NASA was more focused on satellites and innovative technology than on seeking life on other planets. Their attention was on Mars, which wasn't particularly surprising or especially bad. Your history books may not tell you this, but the Soviet space program was the first to send a probe into the atmosphere of a planet other than Earth. It also achieved several other firsts. The USSR became the first nation to achieve a soft landing on another planet, returning pictures and sounds from its surface. In fact, the Soviets had their own one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind moment long before the U.S. So, why do we rarely hear about such accomplishments? Well, remember what we said about the Soviet tendency to keep secrets. That's just one of many reasons for the oversight of the Soviet space program. In 1992, the famed agency was decommissioned following the USSR's collapse. The program had to be rebuilt under a new Russian identity, Roscosmos. Many of its original records were either lost or destroyed. This is precisely why we don't have a clear answer as to why the Soviets launched 28 rockets into Venus's atmosphere. Still, we can make a reasonable assumption. Perhaps the Soviet decision to explore Venus was more about cost-effectiveness than anything else. This isn't to say the space program didn't recognize the planet's true potential. They were searching for reasonable water levels, sunlight radiation, and the planet's overall characteristics. Without a series of these space missions, it would have been incredibly challenging to assess Venus's. Pursue Mars exploration as aggressively as it did. For the Soviets, the shorter distance to Venus likely made it a more appealing target for resource allocation during the height of the space race. Even though Venus was less hospitable and offered minimal prospects for life, it provided valuable scientific data about planetary atmospheres, geology, and climate systems. The Soviets' investment in Venus missions led to numerous breakthroughs, including the first images of the planet's surface and critical insights into its extreme environmental conditions. Despite these accomplishments, the harsh conditions on Venus presented significant challenges. The planet's surface temperature averages around 475 degrees Celsius (887 degrees Fahrenheit), and its thick atmosphere, composed mainly of carbon dioxide, is laced with clouds of sulfuric acid. These extreme factors caused most Soviet landers to survive only a few minutes to a couple of hours after reaching the surface. Nevertheless, these missions showcased the resilience and ingenuity of Soviet engineering. The Venera program not only demonstrated the feasibility of landing on such a hostile world, but also set the stage for future exploration of similarly challenging environments, both within and beyond our solar system. As we reflect on these missions today, it's clear that the Soviet Union's efforts laid the groundwork for our current understanding of Venus. The data collected during the Venera missions remains crucial for ongoing research, including recent discoveries of potential biosignatures in Venus's atmosphere. While the U.S. and other nations now look toward Mars, Europa, and other celestial bodies for signs of life, the exploration of Venus is far from over. With new technologies and international collaborations, humanity may yet uncover more secrets hidden within the thick, scorching atmosphere of this enigmatic planet. The Soviets' legacy in space exploration, particularly their pioneering efforts on Venus, serves as a reminder of the extraordinary achievements that can arise from a relentless pursuit of knowledge, even in the most unlikely and inhospitable places. We have never, at any point, investigated Mars with such ease. Different reports recommend that Soviet missions were hazardous and had critical specialized flaws. Plainly, the rockets weren't ready to cover gigantic distances. Besides, the organization had an unfortunate history of losing contact with its rockets. So, it appears logical why the Soviet space program picked a more efficient and somewhat closer mission that would yield results. Anyway, if we don't think about the space race in this context, the account of the Venera missions would be incomplete. The U.S. wasn't even on the space map when the Soviet program launched the first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, in 1957. This move kicked off the space race and kept its momentum. What's especially intriguing is why the U.S. focused on the Moon instead of Venus. NASA had a series of failures with its Venus missions during the 1960s. Consequently, the U.S. Space Agency hit a roadblock known as the Venus Curse. Each time they launched a probe into Venus' atmosphere, it failed. This was precisely when the Soviet Union saw an opportunity to capitalize on NASA's failures. At that time, both the U.S. and the USSR were determined to win the space race. The best strategy was to take advantage of two distinct opportunities. It was a quiet yet decisive approach. The Soviet space program seized Earth's sister planet as its first triumph in the space race, achieving something its primary rival had failed to do. Despite the Soviet Union's limited resources and unstable government, they repeatedly launched missions to Venus to secure their leading position over the U.S. In contrast to NASA's focus on the Moon, this strategic decision wasn't without malice. Moreover, cunning propaganda was used to obscure their significant failures with Venus. The American government was provoked to investigate the USSR's obsession with the planet, with the media labeling Venus as the evil planet, while Mars became humanity's destiny. These names didn't matter to the Soviets. Their mission was to demonstrate their dominance over the Americans, and they succeeded in doing so. The Venera missions are almost forgotten in modern history. However, despite their initial hardships, these missions were astoundingly complex, advanced, and ambitious at the dawn of the space age. The Venera missions paved the way. Back in the 1950s, the Soviets began testing the designs and technical details of the probes. Over the next 30 years, they continued to build and launch interplanetary spacecraft as part of the Venera program. Since the program ran alongside a fierce Cold War, the Soviets focused on improving their resources. Fortunately for them, the early years of the conflict provided them with more resources than the U.S., which proved incredibly important. It allowed them to build larger rockets designed to break through high altitudes and cover vast distances. The Soviets hurried to experiment with both manned and automated rockets, while their intellectual community worked on a series of calculations and assessments to create accurate navigation for the Venus missions. Behind the scenes, their Mars programs were also running. Nothing was more critical than developing advanced instrumentation for these missions. This led to significant breakthroughs in technology. They overcame the enormous challenges posed by Venus' harsh environment. In addition to scientific instruments, the Venera spacecraft carried cameras that captured the first close-up images of Venus' surface. These photographs revealed a rugged landscape dominated by rocky plains and volcanic features, providing scientists with valuable insights into the planet's history and evolution. The panoramic images taken by later missions, such as Venera 13 and 14, further enhanced our understanding of Venus' surface morphology and composition. Despite their successes, the Venera missions also faced their share of failures and challenges. Several missions either failed to reach Venus or experienced technical breakdowns that prevented them from sending data back to Earth. The harsh conditions of Venus, temperatures exceeding 450 degrees Celsius (842 degrees Fahrenheit), and corrosive sulfuric acid clouds, posed enormous engineering challenges for spacecraft design and operation. Nonetheless, the determination and dedication of Soviet scientists and engineers involved in the Venera program paved the way for future missions to Venus and other celestial bodies. The legacy of the Venera missions lives on in the ongoing exploration of Venus by space agencies worldwide, including NASA's upcoming Venus mission in collaboration with Roscosmos. Looking ahead, the Venera mission aims to build on the achievements of its predecessors by sending advanced instruments to study Venus' atmosphere, surface geology, and potential signs of past or present habitability. The mission represents a collaborative effort to unlock the remaining secrets of Earth's closest planetary neighbor and expand our understanding of the conditions that could support life beyond our own planet. The Venera program was a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, marking a significant chapter in the history of space exploration. While the Soviets struggled with immense technical and environmental challenges, their achievements laid a foundation for understanding Venus as a hostile yet scientifically fascinating world. Through the program's evolution, the Soviets consistently improved their spacecraft designs, enabling them to withstand Venus' crushing atmospheric pressure, more than 90 times that of Earth. Instruments aboard the Venera probes measured the planet's chemical composition, atmospheric pressure, and temperature, providing invaluable data that scientists still analyze today. Beyond the scientific achievements, the Venera missions played a crucial geopolitical role during the Cold War. By achieving milestones on Venus, the Soviet Union demonstrated its technical prowess and space dominance, even as its broader space program faced difficulties competing with NASA's lunar missions. The space race was not merely about science, but also about showcasing political and technological superiority on the global stage. The Venera missions also contributed to a deeper understanding of planetary evolution and climate systems. Data collected from Venus suggested that the planet may have once been more Earth-like, with possible oceans and a temperate climate. However, a runaway greenhouse effect turned Venus into the inferno it is today. This discovery served as a cautionary tale for Earth, emphasizing the importance of understanding and mitigating climate change. Today, Venus remains a priority for scientific exploration. Current and future missions, such as NASA's Da Vinci Plus and Veritas, as well as ESA's Envision, aim to build on the legacy of the Venera program. These missions will employ cutting-edge technology to study Venus geology, atmosphere, and potential for harboring microbial life. The study of Venus continues to inspire scientists, engineers, and the broader public, highlighting the importance of exploring our planetary neighbors to better understand our place in the universe. The story of the Venera missions is one of triumph against adversity, a reflection of humanity's enduring quest for knowledge. As we look to the future, with plans to explore Mars, the Moon, and even farther celestial bodies, the lessons learned from Venera remind us of the resilience and creativity required to overcome the unknown.